everybody, welcome back to my studio. Tonight I am going to be doing a pastel portrait of this rose, and it's kind of a purple pinkish ivory rose. I will just show you the reference picture. I'm going to actually change it up a little bit. I'm going to make the colors a little bit more brilliant, and I don't know, I'm going to play around with it and have some fun, but I got this off of a royalty-free site. I think either Pastels or Pixabay. I got it a few weeks ago. So anyways, that is what I'm going to do. I am using, this is just white drawing paper. It's from Strathmore. And it's just sketch paper. It's nothing super special. But, you know, most artists like to work on sanded paper, especially when they use soft pastels, which I will be using some soft pastels tonight. So what Diane Townsend has come up with is dry grounds, and you can get these, I think I got these through Dakota Pastels, and what it is, I'm sorry, I didn't get it through Dakota. I actually got these through the fine art store, I think. And anyways, they're based out of Rochester. It was either the fine art store or Dakota Pastels. Either way, what these are is they're like little bars of pumice. I think it's pumice. And what it is it just gets rubbed onto the surface and it adds some tooth to the paper. Whereas there's not a lot of tooth here, it's just a drawing paper. So I'm going to use the white. I think this is white and this might be tan or beige. I forget. I bought these a while ago and I have used them before. I don't use them all the time, not because I don't like them or I think they work. I just tend to use hard pastels or pastel pencils when it comes to the drawing paper, and you know, I usually don't need that, but I did want to use it for this because I am going to use some soft pastels and I want to show you how they work and recommend them because I really like Diane Townsend, and I think that, you know, having the option of a dry ground is kind of nice. So all I do is I just make some soft circles, all just cover the whole surface. And you don't have to go too crazy because you'll notice that I'm leaving behind some debris from the bar. So that's just pumice or something. And you know, it is almost like a pastel. You know, it kind of has that consistency like a soft pastel. And now what I do is I just kind of rub it in. And they recommend using gloves because they say it will make your hands hurt. Honestly, it's not like sandpaper. It's very smooth. It's like a very fine powder. I'm not, you know, uncomfortable at all by doing this. If I was to do this all day, and on, you know, a lot of surface, maybe it would start to bother me, but this is fine. And again, I chose the white color. I don't think it really would have mattered. And I'm just trying to rub in the whole surface. And it's just going to add a little bit of tooth. So I'm going to just, and I'm going to do one more layer. I'm not sure how many layers people tend to do, but I use 2. And that usually works for me. Okay. And I'm going to rub it in. There are a lot of different products for dry grounds to add tooth to different surfaces and, you know, just give it a little texture. This is the only one I've tried, and you know, I like the convenience of it in a bar. I know that some companies sell like a pumice powder, and that just seems messy. I guess you could put it in a jar, but I just really like the convenience of the bar, and I do a lot of traveling, so this works really well. And there is like no actual tooth that I can see. You know, I know it's in there. I can, you know, if I'm really looking, I can see that it has added something, but it doesn't give it like a sandpaper texture or anything. It's just very smooth, but you can feel it and you can hear it that, you know, I do feel like it will come out a little bit nicer, and I can do a little bit more layering with the soft pastels. So I feel better about that. So now let's get to the painting. Now I took after I sketched the flower in, I used a kneaded eraser to just kind of pick up some of that graphite. And so it is a very light colored flower. This is kind of an intricate picture, honestly. It's not like, it's very intricate, especially here in the middle of the flower. This is always kind of the most intimidating place to start. So I'm just gonna kind of dive into it. I'm gonna use pastel pencils primarily at the start. And I'm going to be using some purples. I'm literally just getting these out for the first time now. And I think that is the bulk of what I'm going to use here. I'm going to grab a couple of other choices of purples that I have. So I'm going to use some Fabre Castell Pitt pastels, and I have a few carbothellos, and these are from Stabilo. So we're going to get started right away here. Let's see. I'm feeling a little intimidated. I've actually never done a pastel flower before. I'm trying to think. Like, I do them a lot in my watercolors, but I will be honest, I don't think I have ever done a watercolor flower, or I'm sorry, a pastel flower. So this should be interesting. So I'm going to start here. So this part is kind of white here, and it kind of fades into a pink. Okay, that pink is way too brilliant, but I am gonna continue anyways. And the one place that I've already started, I realized is like not that color at all. It's actually a purple. So I am batting 1,000 already here. This is perfect. I have no idea how this is going to come out. I'm just like really winging this, which, you know, I think is really cool that, you know, pastels can be so versatile. You know, you can do landscapes, you can do animals, botanicals. I mean, they have no limits to what pastels can do. So I'm going to use a tool here. I want to kind of blend these together. And I'm going to use these. These are just little tools that I got on Amazon. Really nothing special. But they just kind of soften things together. And you can spread out some pigment. Almost like using your fingers, only these are really tight area. So even my very small fingers I don't think would fit here. And I'm going to just kind of add some more to darken it, because this is a crevice. So we're going to get some shadow in here. And I'm going to darken this again. So it does fade into this really nice pink. And I'm actually just kind of going in the direction of like the petal. You know, I'm not really scumbling the pastel. I'm not making little circles or anything like that. I am just kind of moving along very nicely in the direction it's doing. Now I'm also overlapping the pinks a little bit, so when I do go in and blend them, they're gonna blend a little bit more nicely. And I'm paying attention to the shadows and kind of the color on the reference photo, but it's gonna look different than the reference. I want mine to be more brilliant and more vibrant. And so, you know, I'm going to use the reference photo as a guide, especially to get that very realistic look in the shadows and the details. But other than that, I'm going to kind of do my own thing. And I'm going to wipe off the tool as I move from the purple to the pink. So that looks really nice, although it is a little bit lighter in the picture. So I want to represent that a little bit better. And I'm going to use my ivory. This is like my favorite color. And I'm just going to lighten it up a shade. I'm gonna already anticipate using some really bright pinks. I'm excited. I love pink and purple and really vibrant colors like that, but I don't use them very often because I do a lot of pets and animals and dogs, and unless they have like a bright pink collar, I don't always get to use these pretty pictures or these pretty colors that often. And I do realize that I have already completely filled in something that was almost white, so I've already done a little bit of messing up here, which is okay, and I'm going to show you it's okay because I am going to erase. First I'm going to erase, okay, I just wanted to get some of the eraser was a little dirty, so I'm going to just go in here . My little eraser . And I am going to kind of lighten that up. So even if you feel like you messed up, no problem. Pastel can just be erased. Okay, that looks a little bit better. And I'm going to do that slightly right here. All right. These are ivory and kind of lighten it up a little bit. And my tool, where did it go? Okay, here it is. That might have to be lightened up a little bit more later, but that's okay. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is get in here with this little fold. There are a lot of little folds in these type of roses, and it is important to capture them all. And not only to capture them, but to really get their shadows, because that's what's going to make this look like very realistic. And if you have a really good eye, you'll notice that I actually did a grid under this first. Most of my drawings start out with a grid, and a flower is no different, because it is really important that you capture each of the folds and really get kind of the dynamics of that flower right. But you could totally miss some petals and nobody would ever know, but I tried to really get this accurate. All right, so that looks pretty good so far. Let's kind of just blend this out a little. Okay, good. Now this had a little bit of highlight, so I'm going to take my eraser. Good. And I'm going to just blend that again. I'm constantly checking the camera to make sure it's still on, because I did this beautiful wolf last week, or earlier this week I should say, and by the end of the session I went to just check the footage and the camera had shut off partway through, so I lost the whole making of that the wolf, so I was really upset, but I figured it just wasn't meant to be. Alright, so that looks pretty good. I feel like I could probably move on. I'm going to do a little bit more in the shadows here. Just a shade, just a touch. And I'm wondering if I have a darker purple. Not really. I'm going to try this dark blue. So this is a Fabre Pastel, and it's just kind of like a dark navy. And I just want to really emphasize this shadow. I'll even bring it up a little bit like this. right, that looks really good. Okay. So I am going to just kind of continue right here in this center, and I am going to just kind of continue here. Now I do feel like I need to lighten this up a little bit in here. I love how pastels just layer, and you can, you know, there are some artists that follow rules like, you know, you got to go from light to dark, but honestly, I just kind of, I don't have any rules. There are enough rules in life. I don't think there should be that many in art. I just kind of create what I, you know, and I try to copy what I see. And if I go off course, it's okay. And there's just no rules. You know, a lot of times I'll do the background first, but I'm not gonna even hold that rule, you know, very seriously on this one either, because I just kind of want to have fun with this. And it's a flower, it's so pretty. And the actual petal that I'm drawing right now is actually, this is like a fuchsia, but in the picture it's more a purple. So I just want to layer a little fuchsia underneath to give it some interest. And fuchsia is so pretty. Good. Now I'm going to use my tool again. And I'm going to just bring this out all around. And if I go outside of the lines a little bit, it's okay, because I'm going to be adding pastel over here. So it's okay to go, you know, outside of the lines a little bit with the tool. And, you know, again, I can just erase if I mess up. And there we go. So I'm going to just add a little bit more purple here. And I'm going to blend with my fingers, just because when it's a wide enough area, I do prefer using my fingers. I feel like I've got good control and I can really feel it, and I like getting my hands in there and dirty. And I'm just gonna add a little bit more to this edge to darken it, and then I'm gonna just bring it in. So this looks nice, although there is it is pretty light on the inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my kneaded eraser, and I always keep my kneaded eraser in something I can close, just so it doesn't attract dust and hairs and things like that. And I'm just going to lift a little bit of the color up. Perfect. That looks a lot more like what the picture is. All right. So there's a big white line in here, which is the petal. All right. So I'm going to try to leave that white a little bit, but it's not perfectly. It doesn't. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect. It's a flower. I always, you know, tell myself if I'm doing a dog and somebody knows the dog, then, you know, you really want to be true to the dog and make sure you get all the features right, but nobody knows this flower. And so if I'm not getting it perfect, you know, nobody will ever know. But what you do want to try to get right is the shadows and things like that so that it looks real, you know. It doesn't have to look like a flower anybody knows, but it has to look like a flower, if that makes sense. That doesn't really make a lot of sense now that I'm thinking about it, but I think you know what I mean. Okay. I wish I had a lighter pink. I feel like this is the first time I'm really using my pinks in my Fabre Pastel set, and it would be nice to have some like ballet pinks. And I'm not feeling like I've got a lot of that. If I enjoy doing this, I might invest in getting some because it'd be nice to have. And this pink is nice, but it's still a little dark. I want like a ballet shoe pink. And now I'm gonna clean my tool off, and I'm gonna blend it. Now when I blend it, it's coming out, it's, you know, making a little bit more of that pink color I want, but it's a very vibrant color, which is good. I can really feel this dry ground under my hand. It's not uncomfortable or anything. It gives me peace of mind knowing that I can add a couple of more layers and not run out of texture or tooth on the paper. Alright, I'm gonna lift some of this pink out. That looks good. All right, so there actually was a little bit of purple here. just trying to capture this texture of, it's kind of like the infold of the flower a little bit. It's really tough to do, actually. So I'm doing the best I can here. But it's very tough to achieve, I'm finding, with pastel. But it's all right. Okay, what I've already decided I'm going to do is, instead of using my tool, I'm going to break out my tourbillon. Let's see if this helps. And the tourbillon is just a little stiffer, and so I feel like I'm getting a little more control. But I'm not really loving anything here. So let's see, I'm going to go in a little bit more with this. All right. All right. So let's try to go in over here and see if this makes me feel a little bit better. Because I'm not really loving how this is kind of panning out here. So unfortunately, when I use the tortillon, it is kind of taking off a lot of the pastel and making it just kind of less vibrant and a little bit more light, which I don't necessarily have a problem with, but it's just something to kind of watch out for. Now I'm trying to kind of add some texture of the flower, kind of these lines that go in, but I'm having trouble with that. And so I'm going to try a different strategy here in a minute. Okay. Alright, so what I was thinking about doing is adding a little bit of hard pastel, just to see if that would give it some texture. So if I just kind of go in a little bit like this, it's looking pretty good. I'm going to table that idea for a few minutes and kind of move on a little bit with this petal, the outside of this petal. lighter purple, but I'm realizing that that is my lightest purple. I'm gonna go for a soft pastel. So I'm gonna just kind of be going into my little box here, and I'm gonna find a very light pastel. And I can do some overlapping here. And let's see. And the picture is not really, I'm seeing that the drawing I did isn't exactly like the picture. So when it comes to these details, it's not really perfect with what I'm seeing on the screen, which is okay. There's nothing really wrong with that. This is hard. I mean, this is not an easy, I don't know if I picked a really hard flower, which could definitely be the case, or drawing flowers is just kind of hard. But that's okay. That's why we do these things, so that we know, and then we never do them again. I'm just kidding. We just need to get better and practice. And not everything I create becomes a sellable piece of art. So, just because I make it, a lot of things I make actually end up going right in the trash. And nobody knows. But I don't get frustrated because it's not really time wasted. It's just, you've got to create ugly art first. And then the beautiful stuff can come. So I'm going to start going up. Well, actually what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to finish right in here and then kind of see how this ends up looking. Yeah. A lot of times what ends up happening is I'll be doing a painting or a drawing or whatever, and I'll say, oh, this is horrible, I'm going to just get rid of this. But something inside me says, no, just press on, really make sure you hate it. Like, just see this through, and if you hate it, then get rid of it. But don't stop working on it to get rid of it. And I've found that every time I take that advice, it ends up being something really awesome. So I just think that most paintings or pastels or, you know, really whatever, I think most of them kind of go through an ugly duckling stage before you can really get to the beautiful swan. And so I try to keep that in mind because more often than not, I'm like, oh my goodness, thank God I did not get rid of that thing, because turns out it was a beauty. And then somebody buys it, and I'm super excited. I find that the stuff people do buy of mine, it's like not the stuff that I even like that much. So we all have different tastes in art. But that's important, because if we didn't, then we'd all have the same stuff hanging up on our walls, which would be very boring. So I'm going to extend this white part out just a little bit, and I'm going to see if I can see, I'm extending this kind of white part out. That's just a petal, but it's very white. And by extending it out, I kind of just show its realism a little bit. And that's looking much better. So I'm gonna bring this purple out a little, blend it. And let's see, it kind of just blends to a very light purple. And then over here it kind of fades to white. So I am going to just add a little ivory down here. Alright, that looks better. I'm going to make it a little more white. Alright, that looks pretty good. So next I'm going to get into here, and I'm going to sharpen this. This is like, my pencil sharpener is eating my pencil, which I don't like. Come back. Oh! See, look how sharp it was for a second, and then it broke. Alright, let's see if I can do this again. Okay. The carbothello colored pen or pastel pencils are very light. I mean, not very light, they're very soft. And so that was evident right there. And it's part of the reason why they're so good is that they're soft. However, they are more prone to breaking. Alright, so that has a nice dark edge here. And I'm going to bring that color down a little bit. But it is the darkest at the edge, so I'm gonna make sure to preserve the darkness there. And then it's pretty light here. And and just make sure, you know, to go in the directional lines that the actual flower is going, because we do want it to be realistic a bit. And we've got this pretty fuchsia color here, and I'm going to just bring this up into the purple so that it blends. And I'm going to do the same thing down here. And that is looking fabulous. This is a nice big petal, so it's nice and easy to work with. And you know, when you're doing kind of these nitty-gritty details, it can get very, very what's the word? It can get tough, to be honest. That's why the middle of the flower, where it's, you know, got these really tight nooks and crannies, that's when you can start getting into some trouble. And that's why I like to start off in the hardest area, so that if you don't get it right and you don't think you're going to come back from that, then, you know, you haven't invested all your time in the whole painting yet, if that makes sense. But like I said earlier, it is best to kind of see the whole thing through and really make sure it's horrible before you throw it away. But I do throw away a lot of my work. So now that I've got that blended out pretty well, I'm going to just kind of go back and I'm going to try to get that fuchsia back in, because you do lose some vibrancy as you blend. But when you go back in again, then you don't have to blend as much because you've already blended. And that first blending almost makes like an underpainting a little bit. So I don't even have to blend this in if I don't want to. And I think I'm going to leave it. I think that looks good. So we're almost an hour in and we have so little done. And I know that can feel really discouraging, but try not to let it, because it's going to be great at the end, I hope. And I'm just kind of looking back at some of this and attending to some areas that I think need to be attended to. And now, what is this? This is kind of a weird area here. Alright, I'm going to stop kind of messing with that stuff. And now I'm going to just kind of continue over here. And this is, we're getting into some bright pinks here. And I don't want to be too, well, I'm going really vibrant right now. Honestly, just because I like this color and I never get to use these pretty pinks. applied this tortillon, I would just knock off so much of this vibrancy. It's almost discouraging. I'm going to see what the tool gives me. I mean, the tool's not as bad with taking away the vibrancy. It does dull it down a little bit, but all right. I'm going to put the tortillon away so I don't use it again. I do